Good afternoon and welcome to our first Department of Social Services Board meeting for 2015. It is at our new date and time. We have moved our meetings to the second Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. and that way we don't have to shift around dates when we run into Monday holidays. So moving forward, we will be on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock unless the board votes to make a change. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and observe a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Amen. Susan, you said we have no one signed up for public comments today. Then I would take a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move the approval of amendments as presented, the agenda as presented, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mary. It's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda as presented in our packets. All those in order, or all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, great. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes of our December meeting.
I move be adopted as mailed, Madam Chairman.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes from our December 8th meeting as they were presented in the packet. All those in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you again. And then we have some consent items on the agenda today. They are budget amendments that Angela Hart, the business officer, has prepared. The first one is a Workforce DOT transportation for $10,000, and then a Smart Start daycare for $205,595. Any questions for Angela or for Mrs. Elliott?
If there are no questions, I move that the budget amendments be approved, Madam Chairman.
And I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We will move into the items for report, and our first item up is daycare and Sharon Alexander. Hi, Sharon.
Good afternoon. I'm going to give you an update of some policy changes and rate changes that are affecting Pitt County Department of Social Services Child Care Program and the families we serve. Effective January 1st, the state instituted a mandatory increase to the subsidized child care market rates to all counties across the state. And as you know, any additional rate increases means additional costs and may mean less children that we can serve on an annual basis. But the last rate increase was in 2007, so it's been a while since the state has increased that rate. In your board packet, there's a copy of a letter sent to our local daycare providers dated December 18th, 2014. Previously, you'll remember that the state cut the rate daycare providers would be paid for after-school care. The letter in your packet was mailed to daycare providers following the state's reversal of that policy, changing it back to the former rate. And finally, our relative cases, which would include our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, were to have their income counted effective January 1st. This policy was also reversed in a conference call we had on December 16th with the state. So now relative cases will not have that parent fee assessed. And those are our changes. Do you have any questions for us?
Are those reversals like statewide or just
Yes,
unique to Pitt?
statewide.
All right, on you, did that change any about whether it's step or the classes of
The STAR?
daycare center?
Did not change.
That stayed the same?
Yes, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4, and
Those
5.
five.
How do we stand now as far as the percentage of 1, 2, 3s, and 4s and 5s in your daycare?
We are still using the 3, 4, and 5-star.
The star right
And
on.
it's based, it's
And
a
it's
parent
about-
choice.
That hasn't changed.
That has not changed, and still parents' choice, and they typically choose the higher stars.
I know at one time we were looking, the more that we could get to go like 3, which is the average.
That's an average. That's
And
correct. It's
we could serve more kids
we could serve more children, but it's still the parents' choice, and we
as to
can't,
what to do.
which one they choose.
I have no other questions.
Sharon, what did you say about parents? Did you say anything about parents?
Nothing about parents in these
Okay.
changes, just the grandparents, aunts, and uncles. They would not pay a parent fee. Originally, they were
Parent-
going to have to pay a
parent fee.
fee
That's what I heard.
for having a,
Okay. Yep.
Any other points you'd like to make?
Just that the state reversed the policy. We have already, as you saw from this letter, made the corrections for 1 month, and we've got the corrections done for the other month, so that will go out when the payments
So
go
they
out for
made the
this month.
change retroactive.
They made the change retroactive, right. So that is, increased cost that we thought had been decreased, so,
And you had to go back and do some payments.
right, so,
Yeah.
Does that mean they get their money back if they paid a fee prior to?
the parents, they get their money back? I don't think that's been an issue
You know,
at
if
this
they
point.
paid a
Not
fee
have.
prior to, it was a 1-month thing, right?
That's
That it
correct.
happened.
Right.
So if they pay that 1 month, will they get it back?
Contacted us.
Well,
Are they subject to get it back?
this is two different things. The state changed the after-school rate.
Kathy, can you give,
Help.
yeah, I'm sorry. That way so they can hear her better.
In October, my name's Kathy Parker Lanier, and I'm the child care supervisor. And in October, the state had told us basically to pay less for after-schoolers. But then, I don't know why, probably because they got a lot of comments, they went back and told us in December they were not going to lower the rate for after-schoolers, that they were going to keep it the same, and to go back to your daycare centers and give them that money back, that they were going to keep the rate. That was after school. Now, the relative cases, that's another issue, like our grandparents, aunts, and uncles. We were told in October to get their income, and their income would count, and they would have to pay a portion of their own daycare, even if they were just grandparents, aunts, and uncles that had taken these children in. But then they also reversed that. But that wasn't to take effect till January. And so they called us in time telling us in December, don't count their income, don't give them a parent fee. We've heard back from a lot of grandparents that know this is going to happen, and they have taken these children in and agreed to take care of them. And so right now, they're not going to be assessed a parent fee, and their income doesn't count, which that's the way it was the old way. In October, they said count it, and now they said effective January, we're not going to do that, don't count their income.
One last question. Did the parents who pay that fee, have they complained about not getting the money back?
Well, see, the grandparents that were
Not the
going to pay.
grandparents, the parents,
The parents never had to pay the fee.
okay.
Right,
That-
it
that
was the
was not part of
grandparents that were
this.
gonna have to pay their fee starting January 1st. But in the conference call, in December, they said, don't give them a parent fee.
What about a situation, Kathy, where the daycare may have charged $100 for after-school and you all were able to pay some lesser amount? Were those daycares making the parents pay the difference? And so now that you're going to do a retro payment, are those parents going to, does that question make sense?
I see what you're saying. I don't think it really got all to that point because it started in October and we pay a month behind, and by mid-November, we were told to go back and reimburse.
Okay.
Like, it was between, November and beginning of December, they were saying go back and reimburse it and give the money back. But I do see what you're saying. I don't think it ever got to the point that probably the daycares charged
Where
the
an
parents
agency
any
was
extra.
charging a parent the
They
difference?
reversed it pretty quick,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Any other questions for Sharon or Kathy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, holiday cheer. And it says Margaret, but that's definitely Retta O'Quinn.
Thank you. The adult foster had a tremendous, fabulous Christmas this year, thanks to so many folks in our community. We sponsored 111 residents through individual church or community sponsorship. So in other words, their list was received and was given to the sponsor, and they did the shopping, wrapping, and brought it to us, or we picked it up and delivered it to the resident. And we also had monetary donations that helped us with 3 or 4 additional ones, and more since Christmas. We are now fulfilling needs that were not met. higher-end items as well as some medical devices we're doing right now that we know we have some money to work with. So it was a great year. It sure was. So thank you.
Thank you.
And the Children's Christmas Fund Holiday Cheer Project was also very successful this year. We were able to provide Christmas for 144 children in our legal custody this year. And this was through the generous support of individuals, businesses, churches, and several community partners who were able to provide a very, very memorable Christmas for the children. We wish you could have seen the faces of the children when we delivered the toys and the gifts and other things that were provided to us by the community. So we just want to thank you very much for supporting our program in such a meaningful way. And we'd like to extend our gratitude for all of the generosity and the best and the wishes from the community partners, and wish everybody a happy new year.
Great. Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, I think we need to let them know that we appreciate it very much. And
Absolutely.
send letters of appreciation to all of those that we can.
Those are going out as we speak. Some have
Yes.
already gone.
Good.
Great.
So, because we said they do appreciate it.
Definitely a successful program because of the community support.
The
Absolutely.
elderly and the children, of course, appreciate it more than anybody else.
That's right. Okay, Ms. Gwen, energy update.
Okay, the LEAP program is in full swing. We opened the program to anyone to apply as of January 1, 2015. The applications are coming in on a daily basis. You see before you a list of our community partners that we continue to work with and who continue to take applications for us. We are processing those applications as quickly as possible and trying to turn it around so that people can get assistance as quickly as possible with their heating. The allocation that we received for 2014-2015 was $1,097,372. At this time, we have spent $380,800, and we have remaining, as of January the 12th, which was yesterday, $716,572. We've approved 1,408 households, and we have denied 144 households. So that's an update on our LEAP program. I'm curious as to how many, but this is the first time we've been all these other places. And I'm curious to know your statistics for the other places. At this time, we are still gathering those statistics. They turn in a log sheet to us on every Monday to show the applications that they're taking, and we are still tabulating those. So next month, I will be able to provide that to you all.
And this program runs until
It runs until March 31st.
March 31st.
We will be taking applications until then.
How long are they having to wait across the river now, those that are signing up for the energy? I took notice, I've been by there 2 times, there are cars everywhere. How long are they waiting?
Brian will update you on the crisis intervention program across the river. He had some statistics regarding that program.
But the energy
The
program is
program.
going across
Yes.
here.
Yes.
I
The
know
energy
that.
program
With Greenwood
is,
Utilities and
Yes.
those that are concerned. They don't sign up for this money that you're talking about, this million or so at the same time?
yes, they do.
That's what I thought.
The LEAP program is a separate program from crisis intervention. So a person can come in and receive assistance for crisis intervention and also do an
Yes,
application.
both of them.
For the LEAP program, yes.
That's what I wanted to know, how long these people was having to wait, because evidently there was a lot of people up there somewhere. I mean, you can't even, what about, I started going there, but there's so many people, I just decided I'd stay away from it.
I think Brian's going to answer some of that, yeah.
Right.
When we have peak demand, which is January is a month we typically have peak demand, and anytime there are a lot of people there applying, when it's such that we can see people individually in offices, we do. They'll see clients individually. But when we have a lot of people waiting, is what you've seen recently, we hold group sessions. And the group sessions, there's a group session held in the morning, there's a group session held in the afternoon. And that has cut out people having to sit for long extended periods of time waiting to be seen, because all the instructions are given to clients in the group. Then they're seen individually, but some of the initial stuff, everybody can be given the same information at the same time. It cuts down on the time it takes to see the client. So that's how we're handling those applications. And those are applications for the Crisis Intervention Program. We started the fiscal year with $730,428 in that program. It runs July through June. We have a balance as of yesterday evening, $33,873. So we posted notices in the waiting room that the funds are limited and approval is subject to meeting the requirements of the program and subject to the availability of funds. Since July 1st, we have done 3,044 approvals for that program. And so that program is when somebody comes in and they're facing their utilities being terminated within a couple of days. They're that close to having their utilities turned off. And so we have to make a decision and handle their application and have the decision within 48 hours. It's an emergency program.
Other questions?
Gwen, are you done with your part?
Yes.
Okay, so Brian, you want to move right into NC
Okay,
Fast?
all right. The NC Fast update. In NC Fast, from September through these figures are through the end of December, we have processed 4,527 applications. We have taken 4,961 applications. We still have 1,625 applications pending. Applications overdue, 306 in Medicaid. The food stamp program or food and nutrition services program remains in compliance. Medicaid is the area we're having to focus on now because of the November 1st was the phase-in of the hard launch of NC Fast for reviews in the NC Fast system. Reviews due by January 31st, 6,498. Now, this is a result of reviews being extended month to month by the state. This is a statewide thing. The state had initially indicated that reviews would probably only be extended through the end of January, but they've moved that date now to March 31st to allow counties more time to work on the reviews, and clients can continue to receive benefits in the Medicaid program while we're doing this. Of course, it's still our responsibility to get the reviews done, and they will have to be done even though they're being extended. In the month of December, we completed 2,580 reviews. What the things we've been focusing on in the review project, we have continued our ongoing remedial training and work groups. We have people working in groups, and as part of the training, they're working on live cases. Those that have not caught on as quickly to the conversion process in NC Fast. So that's an ongoing thing. We are focusing on cases which are not being automatically extended. The state did answer our request to provide over-the-shoulder support and troubleshooting on site, and we have had some help in December, and we continue. We have one person stationed over there now that's working with us from the state office to help in that area. This person is not here to actually work up cases, but is here to offer technical support to the staff in the conversion process and getting the reviews done. 12 of our new hires are now assisting with the project. We also resumed comp time requirement dedicated to the review project January 5th. No comp time or overtime was required of staff in November and December. We are not progressing with this as quickly as we had hoped. It's not going as fast. Some employees, it is taking longer to get up to speed with the new process, but we're working with them on that. We have given work plans to staff who are not meeting the minimum productivity, and supervisors continue to monitor that. When it gets to a point that we've worked through the work plan, what's been outlined in the work plan that has to be completed, if the employee has not been able to meet that, then the next step is a written warning, and we're at a point with some that a written warning will have to be issued. That is a formal disciplinary action, but the written warning gives a plan that the employee is to work on and complete to try to bring things into compliance. One other thing I would like to mention is in the review unit, we have had 3 employees out on family medical leave at one time. One has just recently come back, but we still have 2 out. So with a staff this size, it's not uncommon to have several out for medical reasons at any given time. So we are working with those things and working with the staff, and this is where we are at present.
Questions from
I have
the
2 or 3 questions. Number one, 12 new employees. How many of those employees were helped you, that Pitt Community College helped you in the training? You know, this is one of the things that we said. We need to work with the college to take it, to have these people up and running so that we won't have to train them. How
Right.
many of them are we getting help from?
Well, those 12 are, and those 12 were trained in-house by our supervisor who's providing the training in how to use the NC Fast system. The plan, we had not initially had things in place for that first group to work with Pitt Community College. We are following, Pitt Community College did a profile of our jobs to indicate what skills are needed, and a lot of people who have applied for the jobs have provided their career readiness certificate, and that certificate indicates their level in 3 areas: locating information, reading for information, and applied mathematics. And Mary Paramore from Pitt Community College did a job study and determined what level an individual would need to have competency to be able to adequately do the job. And we have had a lot of feedback from that, their scores and things that they've submitted to us, you know, when they've applied for the job. It's not a requirement, but it's something we're looking at. So we work with Pitt Community College in that. The plan for us to actually work with them maybe and have them do some instruction on site is going to, that would come later, but that's not with this initial 12, the first 12 that were hired.
And Mr. James, the training that Pitt Community College is doing is in things like locating information, mathematics, that kind of thing. They're not teaching them policy, and they're not teaching them how to use NC Fast. So we'd still have to do those things.
All right, but when we were talking to Ms. Paramore and those
Right.
people, they said that they were gonna have a class, and that they
Right.
would enroll in that class, and even Lenore, County and the others might, if we didn't have
Right.
enough positions for them, they
Right.
would take them.
Right, right.
I think we need to take it and make sure that we follow up on it and that we
Yes,
let
sir.
them know that we're counting on them to help us, because, like you said, you're having to retrain somebody. They're slow or something, that I believe you said that a few minutes ago. They're not up to par.
That's correct, and that's
All
why
right,
we're
well,
doing.
we need to know why and what can we do to prevent that. Because we want these people to be hired, we want them to be able to do the job and to do it upbeat so that we won't get behind as
correct.
we did one time before.
And for some of the folks, it's a transition from using the old
Yeah, I
computer
know,
system
yeah.
to the new computer system, and they're struggling some with that new system.
Yeah, and that's the reason I hope, or I was hoping that Pitt Community College would be able to take it to help us. Because I know I would be lost completely on the computer, see, and
Yeah.
And I'm sure many of them are.
Right, right.
Okay, as long as we're doing something.
Just a point of curiosity, how complicated is this system to learn? Are there a lot of loopholes, ins and out, lots of subjective decisions that have to be made that would make it more difficult to learn?
Well, it's a web-based program, and it's, some people have caught on very quickly. Some people are more computer proficient and just more geared toward working with computers. So we have some that are doing very well and the productivity is on the high end. But for others, it is, you know, it's not as easy. So it's hard really to say. I mean, we have people working at top skill level, middle skill level, lower skill level.
The other program was more data entry, sort of a, you know,
That's
just
what I'm saying,
plug
if
in.
it's more
This one is
objective, then it's
not.
easier,
Yeah.
but if it's.
Yeah, the data entry versus what this one's doing, it's a different kind of setup. And the system is not always working as it should. We have significant cases that get kicked out, and it goes to the state help desk, and it's not just us that's having that, it's other counties. So it's, you know, the system is not always working, and you have to figure out what's going on. It's not as intuitive in some respects, especially if you are used to a basic just data entry. I look at the form, I key it in. This one, you have to do all kinds of things with it.
That's where I wanted Pitt Community College to be involved, to make sure that they taught these, our employees, the necessary computer skills so that they could come in and do the job and wouldn't have to be trained by us for a month. You know what I'm talking about?
Mr. James, I think the real intent of Pitt Community College was to screen first.
Right.
To make sure that you had the right employees who were applying, and then also then maybe to give them some basic job skills, but the technical training within the department,
Still.
they would never have that expertise that our own supervisors and trainers in the department have. That's gonna have to come
From here.
through on-the-job training.
All right.
And that's kind of where we're stuck right now with some of
Yeah.
that.
But they should know whether they are capable
Yes,
of
sir.
doing what we're talking about.
Exactly.
And what I will
that's-
say has been interesting, and Brian can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but the ones that have taken the CRC and have done well on that career readiness certificate are the ones that are catching on quicker.
That is correct.
And so
That's
we
right.
really do believe that's a good program that
Yeah.
they're offering to us.
Well, is there some sort of, when they complete this course and they have to take some sort of mastery test, a proficiency rating that you're not going to be considered for this position unless you have that certain mastery rating?
There isn't anything at this time.
I thought we were gonna do that.
Well, no, what we're using is the career readiness certificate to say, do you have the basic skills? We cannot mandate that they have that test. We are saying that that career readiness certificate is preferred. And so we will take those folks over some other folks who don't have that certificate. But we are not allowed to say that we're not gonna hire anybody that doesn't have that certificate and meet those certain levels. That's not something we're allowed to do. But we are getting folks, we are putting it as preferred, we are getting more and more folks to take that test. It is bearing out, and I think if we continue to document and show that this is a useful thing and is bearing out, then maybe we can make some changes down the road with the people who make those kinds of decisions for us, that this could be something we could say was required in positions that had been fully studied and documented.
As we hire people,
Yes, sir.
we interview them.
Yes, sir.
We can hire them or we can not hire them.
Right.
And you're telling me that if we know that they're not capable of doing this job, that you've got to hire them regardless?
No, sir, what I'm saying is that the career readiness certificate that we're asking folks to take
Yeah.
as a preference, we're not saying you have to, but as a preference, because they're paying for it themselves, okay?
Yeah.
So if there's a fee required. So we're requesting that they take that, those that take it, if equal with somebody else, then we're gonna hire the ones that have the test and did well on the test.
Well-
But if you come to me and didn't take it and meet all the requirements, have a good reference, did a good interview, then I would consider you, just like I always have. That does not necessarily, however, mean that when you know, every once in a while you hire a dud. That does not necessarily mean that when you get the person on the job, that they're gonna be able to do the job after a period of time.
For this, I say I'm gonna be quite a moment. But anyway, you're telling me that we have got a test for them, and we can't require that they take that test to see if they are going to be proficient in a certain job.
Not as a condition of employment.
Well, how
No,
does
sir.
the state do all of this stuff then, and you're not being able to do it? Like
The
a student, they're not going to East Carolina unless they'll make a certain grade and so forth.
It's a different situation. And it's Office of State Personnel that is saying we cannot do this. So, you know, we've got to prove, this is something that's still fairly new. And we've got to be able to prove that this is reasonable, not discriminatory, you know, all those kinds of things. And it's gonna take a lot of us using it and a lot of us documenting it before the Office of State Personnel is going to say that we can make those kinds of decisions irregardless of.
Because remember,
Anything
we,
else?
we don't write the job descriptions for DSS positions locally. They're written at the state level, not at the local level where we could potentially put,
But there has to be a cutoff point somewhere is that if you can't do the job.
Right.
Right.
Then I know that.
And that's what probation's for.
Yeah.
And during the period of probation, we're supposed to be evaluating, working with them and, you know, trying to make sure they can do the job and helping them do the job. And if they can't do the job, then we have to,
But that's the reason I wanted
Do the other.
Pitt Community College to help train these people so that they can do their job.
right,
What,
and,
what concerns me is the cost efficiency,
exactly.
because if we're hiring people without a prerequisite,
Well, there is significant prerequisites, certain years of experience, certain education, those kinds of things all have to be part of the process. And this is what we've been using for many, many, many years, okay?
but if
And
we
it's the
made
state-
that training for this particular position as another prerequisite
Right.
for application to that position, then it seems to me you would have it already, you're increasing your cost effectiveness because you're dealing with a pool of people that already have that pre-training to be successful for further employment.
That's it.
but if the
With training,
state writes
so-
the job
So
description.
how can we go about making this a more practical process? And I understand about the state and all this, but there's something that's, to me, lacking in some common sense
Well,
somewhere.
here's some other issues that came into this. When we were talking about all this, there is a cost to this training. And, and it's, I wanna say, how much did I cannot remember right off the top of my head.
I
how
think it's
much-
$75.
$75 a person to take the 24 hours of training that they're talking about, okay? So, we can say to the person, as a pre-employment, we want you to take this training. But at the end of that training, there may or may not be a job. And I cannot guarantee you that you will be hired, because I may only have 3 jobs and I had 20 people that got trained, okay? So then we get to the discussion of, okay, so I interview these people, I do it the old-fashioned way, and then before I put them through our training, the county pays to have them take this training, and then we're still back to the point we've already hired them. And so it's a catch-22 to some degree. Either they pay it on the hopes that they're gonna get a job, and they may not. And so we're kind of at this point that we're trying to figure all that piece out. What we had agreed to do initially was that for the folks that we hired, we would send them through this training.
The 12.
Well, not the 12, but as we hired this first group, we talked about sending them through that training. Timing did not work exactly right. There were some illnesses involved of the trainers and those kinds of things. We did not wish to postpone, so we kept going, okay? We have talked about it again with this group. We have agreed to pay, if we decide to do this, for the people that we send through this training, if we have employed them. But we had a real problem with saying this training was mandated before we would consider you for employment.
I don't
Because
understand what the problem is in saying that that's a prerequisite to be considered.
What do we do about folks who have experience on the job from other counties who are working full-time and they want to move into our county doing this job? And so they would, and this course would have to be offered somewhere where they could get access to, I mean, you know, there are lots of issues there. And again, the state, I do not believe, would allow us to, at this point, require that training over the 2 years' experience, 3 years' experience, et cetera, when you don't have any experience. This would not make up for the lack of experience or the lack of education according to the state job specifications for recruitment.
Is there any kind of a personal decision phase here where a person, I know when I decided to get my certification as a teacher, as a real estate broker, that recertification, I made a personal decision to invest in myself, my education, and to know that's a prerequisite for being considered for another position, that would be my personal choice. If there are Saturday classes offered, evening classes. When I got my master's degree, I was going to school at night and on weekends,
Right.
and in the summer,
Right.
it was my personal investment in myself before I could apply or receive a promotion
Right.
within the system. The state didn't pay for my master's
Right.
degree, I did.
I
And I'm
understand that.
wondering if that personal investment is something that would make an employee even more motivated to do well.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, somewhere, if we can make a puzzle piece fit more, maybe that personal input, and I understand about a person being employed 2 or 3 years, but knowing if you want this position, this training is going to be a prerequisite, so I go out on my own and I decide to make plans on my personal calendar to get the training before I apply,
Right.
and then I go in, and that still gives the employer the pool of that level of skill
Right.
to choose from.
Right.
And then it seems to me the failure rate goes down.
Right. Well, and right now, we are under the Office of State Personnel, who says you have to have a certain number of years' experience in certain types of jobs, a certain education, in order to get these jobs. They would not allow me to say, if you do not have this training, you cannot be considered for this job. I could say this training is preferred, but I cannot say you have to have this training in order to get this job.
Well, that makes no sense to me.
Well,
If
it's
that's going
not,
to help them.
when the
know.
job descriptions are
Right.
established at the state level,
Uh-huh.
you know, we don't get to make those kinds of decisions. We can, again, just like the CRC, can say this is preferred, we'd like to have it, we can encourage folks to do it. But if I have a person with no experience at all in this class, and a person with 5 years' experience and excellent references, I can't hire this person over this person. Because this person has a proven track record, has the education, has skills, and has good references.
Meet the qualifications.
They meet the qualifications under the State Personnel Act. This person has minimum education, they meet the education criteria, but they have no experience. And that's the problem we're running into, because Pitt Community College and other community colleges offer a 2-year human resources technician program, which is supposed to focus on folks who are working in social services at a technician kind of level, offering types of training and skills that would be useful, like working with clients and so on and so forth. Those folks can't get their foot in the door because we have 400 applicants, and many of those applicants have, you know, years and years of experience, college degrees, so on and so forth. And so they're at a different skill level, and we can't touch these folks. So they get discouraged because they can't get their foot in the door. And it'd be even more so with a 6-week or a 1-week because this is a one-week program, a 24-hour program that we're talking about. This is 24 hours of training that we're talking about at Pitt right now. Because that's what Mary was gonna offer, was 24 hours.
Briefly,
Can't you have a test made up for Pitt County
It has,
to see what they are capable of doing? Just because they worked in Beaufort County for 5 years don't mean they're a good employee. They might want to get rid of them.
I have to be careful about how I set those kinds of things up because they have to pass muster regarding things like civil rights. They have to be jobs. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of hoops
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
I
to
know
jump
that.
through. And so we're, like I say, CRC is preferred. If I get two people with similar skills and one has the CRC and meets the requirements, I'm gonna hire that person over this person. But and the CRC has met the validation from a civil rights compliance and a variety of other things. So we can hold that one up as being defensible in court. But anything we do like that, we've got to be able to defend.
Well, you gotta have this, get your experience from somewhere.
And that's what everybody tells me every day, and I
Yeah.
understand that. I clearly understand that.
And you got some good ones like that that want to work.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
My one question is, those people with challenges in doing the job with this, are they the veteran employee or seasonal worker?
In both areas. Some of them are newer, some of them are veteran. It's not just one group.
Okay.
It just depends on how quickly, they're able to pick up with the computer
Technology.
proficiency of it. That's correct.
And
It
the
would help
policy's
though
not
if the
easy.
technology is straight through all the time, but the glitches and the glitches and the bugs can really hurt
There
the
have been
program.
some significant glitches and bugs.
Okay, thank you.
And Brian, my question has nothing to do with your new hires or your old hires, but everything to do with when I add 6,500 cases that have reviews due by the end of this month
Right.
to 1,600 cases that are pending in the system, that's 8,000 cases, and we process 2,500 in a given month. How do you ever catch up?
Well,
And a little bit of mandatory overtime isn't gonna get you there.
That's part of our problem.
But I don't want to hear it's a problem. I want to know
Yeah.
what the solution is, because I don't want to go back on a watch list. I don't want to go back on the state's red list.
We had that with Missy
Right,
Pass,
right,
they went.
Exactly.
right.
I mean, hard and
Now-
fast, you've got 8,000 cases, and you're working 2,500 of them a month.
See, it's the same problem with the food stamp thing.
Well, yeah.
I
and, you
see
know,
this
yeah,
situation
yeah.
repeating
The
itself.
situation is, we were doing really, 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 really well moving these cases down. November and December, we hit a wall, and we have not picked back up. We are meeting regularly to tweak the plans, make the plans. We have until March to get this worked out. Now, you gotta know, these are food stamp applications in here too, and we're working really well with the food stamp. This is a combo, because we got folks that are cross-training and trying to do both kinds of things. We have used all the money we have to go out and hire temps. And so we are continuing one of the things we talked about today is trying to figure out if we can pull a group of folks that can key really fast, and somebody else can sit and prep the records, and we can put those folks that can key in, okay?
That's right.
Because we got folks that can do much faster than others. We are going to struggle. There is no doubt about it. We are going to struggle. We will make sure that nobody does not get their benefits, okay? If at the end of March, we have not, and see, part of the problem is we're still having to handle these cases twice. You've got, a lot of these cases were in the old system, and you've got to convert them to the new system. So that's an hour and a half longer per case than it used to be, okay? So we're making progress on that. But we are not up to speed, and that's part of why we are really pushing hard on some of these folks that are not producing. We've got to get their production up. We've got to make sure they've got what they need to get done. And we're gonna have to figure out different things to do, but we are looking at it every day. is not going as well as I had hoped.
But it appears to me we've recreated the perfect storm in that for every month you chop a little bit away, that many more cases come up due for review, that many more new cases are filed. And I don't want us to get,
Right.
as a board, to the end of March or the
Yeah.
second Tuesday in March, and you all look at us and say, well, we still didn't get it, and then the state
Right.
throws down a hammer.
Right.
Because I got my own hammer. I'd rather see us go ahead and say, now, it's not working, we need to find some money for overtime or temps and run the white flag up the pole now rather than once the state's already put us on a blacklist again.
What were the walls that you referred to in November and December?
The walls, I mean, in November and December, we had two things going on. One was the implementation of
The hard
NC
launch.
Fast. We hard launched in November, okay? At the same time, we had, people taking off because it was holidays. We had a variety of things going on, and we said, these folks have worked so hard for so long, they need some time. They need some time with their families. They're not gonna go without, because we're gonna make sure that everybody that needs to get their case processed gets processed. Does that mean we didn't have hiccup here and there? No, but we worked really hard on that. But since the state had agreed to continue to roll forward, we worked steadily, but there was a learning curve of getting these folks back up into NC Fast. The state had the problems with slowdown, so that didn't help us at all. And then we probably worked at 60% in December because of all the people taking off and that kind of thing. This month, and we still processed a fair number in December, not what we had been processing. Prior to that, we had done, in Medicaid alone, 2,000 cases in a month?
Right.
And then we suddenly went to like 250 cases because of the hitting that wall of NC Fast and those kinds of things. We're building back, but we're not building back at the speed that we wanted to build back at.
You know what, Madam Chairman, what really concerns me, even in the region, is when the Medicaid thing comes, that it becomes a problem with life-threatening and getting what we need. But that's when you're gonna have legal problems. That's when you're gonna have problems. And we talked about that in the region earlier. You remember, I sort of briefly mentioned it prior to, but when people can't get their medication, they can't get the service they need medication, that's when the social service.
And we've got two people that are doing nothing but chasing problems with NC Fast because people can't get things because the systems aren't talking or whatever. They're working those two people need to be doing cases, but they're sitting trying to get cases to turn loose in NC Fast based on whatever, because you gotta track them. The statistics are not good. One day, I've got 200 cases that have processed, and the next day, I've got 600 cases I need to do. Well, these were reviews. They shouldn't have changed overnight. So the statistics are not good. And I'm not kidding, there was one day, we dropped over 1,000 cases, and I thought, how did that happen? And the next day, those 1,000 were back, plus 300 more. You trust in this, but it's an issue.
Well, and I don't want to run into the state's deadline, and then we are penalized because we didn't see the issue coming.
We see the issue, we're tracking the issue, we're looking at options every day. Right now, there's no additional funding within our own budget to go do anything. We would have to go out and hire temps because the overtime's still gonna be where we are. I mean.
Well, and I guess that's part of what I'm saying is, with a former commissioner and a current commissioner on the board, the county commissioners have things like contingency for issues that are unexpected in nature. And I would prefer us go to the board and ask for contingency than keep saying, we're gonna try to get it done, we're gonna hope to get it done, we might get it done, we might do better, and then suddenly it's the state's deadline and we haven't got it done. And then the backlash is even worse than
Right.
You know, so I don't want us, like we did with food
Right.
stamps,
That's
to
what
sort of
we
be
had,
avoiding.
that's what we had before.
Right.
We going, we can't, and then all of a sudden, no, we didn't.
Yep.
You know, it's easier, far easier for me, from my perspective, to say right now that we need additional assistance, and with that, maybe the need for additional funding, than it is to keep hoping, and then again, the state puts up some hard date, and we're not anywhere close to
Can
being
I
ready.
ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are other counties
Oh, yes, ma'am.
experiencing the same
Yes, ma'am.
complications?
Yes, ma'am.
So are you saying that this is a system that was launched too soon from the state? Because it's apparently not ready, and yet it was launched anyway? And that's why the counties are experiencing the complications? Are we having a problem with technology within our own system?
There are a couple things. One is, the system was much more complex than the state anticipated. They sold this to the counties as something that, as what I am learning from people, it was gonna save you time, you wouldn't have to know policy, you would
Cut
da-da-da-da-da-da, cut staff. And in fact, it has increased the workload. All counties are out there. I mean, Wake County just went and hired 85 people, or in the process of hiring 85 people. There are, significant numbers of counties that are struggling with this. And, you know, the goal had been, as I understand it, to postpone the Medicaid piece for a year to give counties the time to recover from the food stamp piece. But whatever happened, they decided they had to go ahead and do this. The system, implementing such a system of this size is always going to be difficult. There are always going to be problems to iron out. There's always going to be a learning curve.
Yeah, but it sounds like people are almost flying by the seat of their pants, rather than anticipating problems and having the solutions ready. They're saying, oh, well, we'll fix it when we get to it.
Yeah.
And,
There has been some of that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I want to know how many you employees has been hired by the social service department in the last 3 months. If now, this is what has really disturbed me. Somebody is not doing the job. And you've got people, like you've already said, that some of them, it takes a lot longer to do the job.
Yep.
Well, there ain't but one thing to do with those people. I know what to do with them.
Yeah. We may have to go there with some of
Yeah,
this
you're
stuff.
exactly right.
That's why we are.
Mr. Man, how many, because I know we have hired a large number in the last 3
We've hired a lot of
months.
people. I don't know, in the last 3 months. We've hired a lot of people
Do
since
you
I've
know,
been here.
could you tell us, you
Not off the
can't.
top of my head, but I can tell you, and Jan can tell you as well, that I think my administration of releasing positions within DSS in the last 90 to 120 days has been very liberal. Probably the last week or two, I've started to clamp down again and say, hold them for 30 days, but they've only got maybe 1 or 2 positions that they're asking to be unfrozen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they have been active in recruiting and hiring. I mean, they're not,
Right.
I think they're,
And I think to
people
some degree
turnover.
they've hired people, but we also know that from a county perspective, we had a lot of their positions frozen for a long time. And they might not, I'm speaking now as the board chair, was the agency appropriately staffed for the volume when we released the new positions?
I know that, but at the same time, when I've got a business, I know, they produce what you got to do with them. And you got one guy out there will do as much work as 3. You probably got them in social service the same way.
We do.
So I know what to do.
That's why we're going through the process now with
Okay, all
folks
right.
around
And they
training
got to be, say,
plans,
look,
corrective action plans, and if they don't perform, then we start the
You gotta perform.
process. That's right. That's right.
I'd like to see the county to make sure that we have the appropriate technology with the memory, with the volume, with the speed, and have our end covered when it comes down. That's important, because if your equipment is inadequate and is not prepared to handle, then that's another problem that adds to the problem of not catching on as fast. And as we are doing everything we can, then I can understand, what you need to do that you think you must do. But we need to make sure that we have provided all that we can for them, and that's I think, what
What's,
we're gonna
what's,
do.
like with the successful counties,
Mm-hmm.
is there a large majority of counties who have been successful in implementing this on time, in a timely manner?
Not really. When you look at the figures, all the counties have struggled. There are some who have done better. But those were the counties that were better staffed.
And small.
A lot of them were smaller, but they were better staffed. But some of the smaller counties, the percentage of cases that they have not processed is much bigger than ours. It has been a struggle statewide. That's not to say we all struggle at the same level, but it has been a struggle statewide. Speaking to your issue of computers, that's another thing that this department apparently let slide for several years during the budget times when things were not really good. And so we have a significant number of computers that are XP, not Windows 7. We are rolling out 35 of those in the next few weeks, so hopefully and they will go over to the income maintenance side, so that all of that side of the agency within, let's say 3 months, should have the most current computer system that the county offers.
And the county offers Windows 7.
7.
Well, I have Windows 7 at home, and I dread the day my computer breaks and I have to go to Windows 8. But we know that Windows 7 has been outdated by even beyond that now.
But the county right now, the standard is Windows 7. So we are we're trying to play catch-up now on that end.
Is that across the department?
That will be across, no, it's DSS, but it will be
Yeah, well.
DSS, and there are 35 over across the river where Brian is that have the lower level computer, and we are working with MIS to get those rolled out. We bought some, we're getting them rolled out. We still have some over in this building that will have to be done, so that will be the next phase, but that will probably be in the spring sometime.
Well, if Becky can remember, that's one of the questions I brought up in previous time about the computer, and I'm told it's fine, but personally, I found out it wasn't. But when we do all that we can, technically, I think, in as far as that concern, we will be fair to the employee who is not performing up to par. But when we are not doing what we need to do as a county, then I don't think we need to hold them fully responsible.
Well, and I don't know
until we get up to par. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know that the XP computer has
If we
been
need
a
a
major
pencil
problem.
and we
but-
buy a pen, you're not helping. If we need a pen and you bought a pencil, that still makes a difference.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And
We will
I'm
have a
just,
better report for you next month.
I'm just saying, don't decide something is a non-solution just because you've exhausted your budget. If there's something that we need, then we
Right.
may need to take it to the next
Right,
level.
right.
And take it to Scott and the full board and say, this is not working and these deadlines are coming. Because I don't want us caught behind a deadline, not having done something for lack of
Right.
asking, permission.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question, just out of curiosity? Is it possible for us, if we want to, like for me, to audit the training, just to see what it is that's involved? Can I just go sit in on the classes myself, just to see how it progresses, what the expectations are?
Yeah, you could watch one of the, actual in-house classes that we're doing now, the training. It would give you an idea of what the process is.
I would really be interested to do that, because then I think I'd be able to
You'd
speak more, I'd have the depth of knowledge, and if you could give me like a schedule or something when this is going to occur, I would
Okay.
really like to do that.
Okay.
And right now, we've got some policy training going on too, where we're trying to cross-train staff. So, one of the things tomorrow, we have a company coming in to demo a system for us that if we think it would work, could help us at the front desk with taking the material that the clients bring in that we then have to copy and turn over to a worker. This system would allow the person to scan it in themselves, get a receipt for what they actually provided us, and then it would upload to the worker. And so if we're gonna see a demo of it tomorrow. So that would help some, because we lose things, and it does take a lot of time to copy all that stuff or scan all that stuff to records for folks. So, we're constantly looking at things we can do, but that would be a budget issue, and Scott, yes.
Well, he had his hand raised, so.
Yeah, I had the question on the Medicaid backlog. I know the question was asked by several board members, but was the answer provided in terms of what the plan is, or is the plan going to be brought back to the next board meeting, or maybe I missed that?
We have a plan, we're constantly reevaluating the plan, and next month we will have hopefully have a better plan for you, based on, one, where the training has gone and if that has actually picked up speed. Two, if other things we've implemented, and three, there may be a conversation with you.
And I would anticipate, as we look towards the budget process for July 1 going forward into the 15-16 year, fiscal year 15-16, that DSS got a good share of positions
Right.
this year. I wouldn't anticipate seeing that again next year. I just
Right.
want to prime the
No,
conversation.
I think the conversation that happened when you stepped out had more to do with, is it temps and overtime you need right now to catch up, as opposed to more permanent, long-term
Okay.
Right,
positions.
right.
But there is no funding in their current budget,
Yep.
as it's now structured, to do more temps or overtime.
Because
would
we've
that-
spent close to 200,000, early in the year of lap salary to
And
help.
would that be 75-25? So if we spend $100, we get reimbursed 75%?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's something to take into consideration
Yeah,
too.
so we would need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we would have to go to the commissioners, I know, to do something like
Correct.
that.
But Melanie, you're thinking that that's probably the only way to get this caught up is to hire the extra help right now.
If that's how you did it with Food and Nutrition Services, is you did and I guess what I want staff to hear is if that's what you need, then this board wants to
Right,
know
support
that,
it.
so they can support that
Right.
action if you have to take it to the
Right, I'd
commission.
rather be ahead of this 8 ball than get behind it and get crushed by it like we almost did with
Right,
food
right.
and nutrition.
And that's what everybody's saying.
And I think that we also need to ask that of the technology needs as well, to make us aware of what those are.
Okay.
I mean, I encourage you to work with the manager, but your board is
Right.
also here as five faces that can sit in that audience when you take it to that next level. And I'm encouraging you to let the board
No,
support
when
you.
we have to do
We
that
would
kind of
rather
thing.
know the bad news than no
That's
news at
why
all.
we're sharing the bad news this week, because it's not, we had great hopes and it's not doing what we had thought, so we've got to regroup. That's where we are.
Any more questions for Brian?
I got one, and that is, Brian, I want to know the top employee you have in the crossover. You know what I'm talking about? The number of cases, how many can that person do in the changeover?
Can do as many as 10 in a day.
All right, then what's the less?
We have some that do
One-
0 in a day.
Well, 1 or 2,
One or two?
Correct.
You know what you got to do.
well,
Well,
that's,
doesn't
I'm
we're-
not a
that-
fool now.
and we're working with those.
Doesn't
I
that,
mean,
based on the
I'm
case
not
itself, as to
putting
what,
anybody in
doesn't
about
that, has to do with what's in the case itself?
It can well.
Because it might be a good
It
case or,
can,
you
it
know, a
can.
Right.
straightforward case.
Yeah,
Right.
but I know employees, I told you, I got some, I know how it happened.
Not all
Someone
cases
born
are created
yesterday.
equal, and
That's
not
right.
all employees work at the same pace.
Right,
That's right.
And you have
And
to
no matter
find
what you
that.
do with them, they're not gonna pick up unless you put force behind
right,
it.
right.
All right, that's all I.
Brian, I think you're off the hot seat now.
Brian, are you tired standing?
I think Brian is getting the point, though.
Yeah.
I hope somebody is.
Yeah, we know the point.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, which is an item for decision, has to do with an evaluation for the DSS director. And we've talked about this at our retreat back in the fall. We talked about it a little at the December meeting. for those of you, were all emailed the first part of last week, somewhat the final version of what we had at the December meeting and Jan's performance objectives that she wants to report on to let us know what she's doing and how she's
I am
doing.
cold. I'm sorry.
You're cold?
I am cold.
It is cold in here.
Do you have a jacket?
Yeah, I do. I think I need to put it on.
I think it's
My
part of
hands are cold
is
and that's
this
got
building
warm.
and going from a 60-degree yesterday to a 30-degree today, it doesn't switch from,
No.
because I can hear it running. But we've always had that issue when the weather switches overnight.
And we're right here at the top.
But I like this tool that we've sort of hammered out. I like Jan has identified 5 items that she wants to be working on. I want her to be communicating with us in terms of how she's meeting her relationship with the board and relationships in the community and leading this agency, because she is our director. She is here to work with our staff, motivate our staff, counsel and reprimand our staff if that's a step that has to be. And she needs our support and our guidance in knowing how she is doing in dealing with all of those issues. She is fast approaching 6 months with us. She is due some feedback. In lieu of somebody with another suggestion, are we at a point where we can say, this is the tool we're going to use for 2014, 2015, to tell Jan how she's doing?
Can I talk about my suggestion?
You won't know until you get these reports in.
One thing that Mary Perkins and I had talked about during the last evaluation, which was this evaluation and the one just prior to this evaluation before Jan even came on board. And we all felt as board members of social services that we could not evaluate because we as basically lay people, and even I with experience at social services, we could not know how that she or he was meeting the aspects and the different sections of the evaluation. So in view of that, I talked with Melanie a little bit last week. And what Melanie and I agreed on was to take this, which the layperson would have no knowledge of, the board members would have no knowledge of, and that Melanie and I would sit down with Mrs. Elliott once a month to actually address each of these with, how do you think you are meeting these criterias or these questions or these aspects of your evaluation? Otherwise, we really don't know. Staff would know, but we aren't staff. And so that's kind of what we had done, Mary, in terms of the concerns that you and I had maintained on the, I don't know, our inability to answer some of the questions.
Well, and one of the things I pointed out to Becky was even within the county, the manager doesn't necessarily always know everything the finance director does, or the board of commissioners doesn't always know what the manager does because they're not here and on site with them every day. So even in the old days, Scott would ask me to sort of self-assess myself and how I thought I had done, to give him some sort of, as he's doing my evaluation, things that he might not have known I had accomplished or things that he might not have known I was involved in. I think Scott does a sort of scorecard back to the commissioners when he is getting his evaluation done to make sure that they remember, we did this project that got this award, or we did this project that was well received in the community. And so some kind of feedback from Jan to all of us that helps us know, because we don't know that she met with 14 churches last month, or that she met with, she did 8 public appearances. and all of those things go into like her relationship with the community. So and when Becky says Becky and Melanie, it's because it's the chair and the vice chair trying to stay in touch with Jan to give her the support and the feedback from things we're hearing. I would encourage all of you, though, if you're hearing
yes.
from the community or hearing from an employee a concern, share it with Jan so that she can't fix what she's not aware of. And she can't improve or change something that she doesn't realize is a problem. But we've got to come up with the tool to evaluate her, and we've got to have something in place before the year is out. So I am interested in what the rest of the board's thoughts are.
Well, personally, I think it's a good idea to have a periodic, before you get something on an evaluation, to have periodic updates. I think that's very considerate. I'm wondering, is every 4 weeks too soon? To see some things accomplished, especially when you have different departments that are working that you're waiting on between them. And also, I was noticing I really like 22 and 23 on here, where it says it meets with management staff and to just discuss progress. Somewhere in there to give staff some sort of input, because it's like you said, we don't know that part. All we know is what we see or hear, basically here. So I really like the idea of the input from staff as to how that communication is growing and blossoming.
And whatever the chair and the vice chair resulted in any kinds of concern, the entire board would certainly be made privy to that. It would not be that Melanie and I were doing anything.
The, one thing that I would feel about it is, are we, from the public point of view, giving over our duty as having come here to make sure that the lead person in the community for social service is responsive to how they feel? Is there a comment box at social services over there and over here?
That is one of the things that we are proposing to put together in that's part of the work plan
Now,
for this year.
if you have a comment box over there and over here, I can understand and I can accept that better than anything else. And then I'd be privileged to seeing the comments that come in the box, because I am not a social worker. I have never worked in the social service department, but I have seen services that it produced, and I hear from people who receive those services, and sometimes staff. As a matter of fact, I heard a lot of it in the emails prior to your hiring. So my point is, if you have a comment box that all of your staff know about, and a public box where the public is free to see, as far as putting stuff in, not reading, but then I feel comfortable. But if you don't have that, I don't feel comfortable.
Well, if you look on number 4 in the work plan performance objectives, it says develop and administer client satisfaction survey, begin surveying the people who utilize agency services about their experience. And so
And
that
see,
would
we
be
never
something-
had that, yeah.
It's been years, but you have had it in the past, but you haven't had it recently. So we'll get that going again. One of the things that I would, if I may, one of the
Please
things I'd
announce
like to say.
these at your staff
We will.
meetings.
Yeah, we will. Is that I had thought about giving you a monthly report, and, on some of these things in writing to the entire board.
Good.
Because that's what I've done in the past. Once we had a plan sort of established, progress on certain things, or who I met with, or, the number of meetings we did this month, or whatever. And so it can be however y'all want to do it, but that's what I had initially thought I
like
could do.
that, I like that, but they still can meet with you, but I like, because they have knowledge that, I don't know about Susan's background, but they have knowledge that I don't have. But I want the report because I want you to, I feel amenable to the community as far as you met with this or you did that. I want to be able to answer some of them questions. I don't be saying, oh, no, that doesn't work with me.
Well, and if Jan has given us some of that feedback, like I met with the Department of Social Work at ECU, and then when you're out in the community and they say, well, does she work with ECU any? We can say, absolutely, she met with the School of Social Work just last week, because she reported that to us. I think getting some of that feedback helps you then decide, well, do you think that that's a 1 as unsatisfactory, or if that's a 5 exceeds satisfactory? But if she knows what she's reporting on and what she's expected, she's gonna give us better feedback to let us know how she's doing her job and what we can help her do to do her job better, or what we can do for her to help her do her job better. So at this point, are we okay with saying, and it was in your package?
How you feel about it? Now we talking about it in front of you. I'm fine.
And she actually put together these 5
So I
items
want-
on the
I'm
work
fine.
plan.
I'm fine. Because I'm comfortable with the comment boxes and I'm comfortable with the report. And I'll be as satisfied as I can be.
You be happy.
She could be happy and satisfied. Okay, so then, can we have a vote that, or a motion that this is the performance tool we will use, and this is Jan's performance objectives, and that we want to see a monthly,
My
some
little
monthly
teacher
feedback?
self, on number 22, if you could just change that verb, meets at least monthly with managed staff to review and discuss, just take that D off, ED.
Discuss progress. Can you fix that typo, Susan?
We can
Small
fix that.
detail.
We can fix that.
So this is the, a motion that this is the evaluation tool
Move.
with Coral's change.
I move the
Moved by
motion that this
Mary.
becomes the
And I
evaluation.
second.
Seconded by
until we
Becky.
find a need
And I
to change
move
it.
that the annual work plan for the performance objectives also be included in the
Are
evaluation.
you okay with that,
Yes.
Mary?
Is that with the amended suggestions from Mary about the comment box and that kind of?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, all in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
You have a performance
I'm
tool
voting
now.
no on this deal. I don't think it's good at all. I think this is, I can't understand it, let's put it
And,
that way.
and that's why we're gonna do it like we explained. We're gonna report back and explain what is being done in each one of these sections. Because before, with you and me and Charles Mayo,
I'll just put
we
one.
couldn't know.
Yeah, I just take one, put it on the table. I want you to tell me how I, as a board member, is gonna ever be able to interpret anything about it. Yeah, I can pick any of them for that goes. Interpret and enforce social service laws within Pitt County jurisdiction. How am I gonna ever do that?
because
You're
she,
not going to,
That's right.
She
Well,
is
why am I
going to-
gonna judge it then? That's what I'm
because
getting
you're
at.
judging how she does that, Mr.
and
James,
we're gonna
because that
tell
is
you
her
how she
job.
does that.
Well,
We're gonna-
I don't know the laws.
some things you're gonna know because if we get written up by the state, you know, all those kinds of things, you're gonna be privy to. And that if we're getting all that kind of stuff happening, then you're gonna be able to go,
She's
then
not doing a
obviously
good
she's
job.
not doing what she's supposed to be
See,
doing.
this is where I'm disagreeing with it. All right, like, hiring people. I don't know the law. Evidently, somebody else don't know the law. If you've got somebody out there that's able to do 10 and somebody do 1. And you're saying you can't hire
This is
'em.
where number 3 on her annual work plan, she speaks to that. She says,
number
assure
3, let's look at it."
agency has qualified, trained staff.
I'm looking
So
at this
that's where she
CDC,
could,
don't
she
touch
could
me.
justify her new hires by their
This goes.
productivity based on their quality and training and productivity.
I really thought Mr. James would be happy that we are hiring people with experience and qualification based on his comments of the past that somebody to know
All
the
right,
job.
let's hold it
and do
right
the
there.
job.
That's what I want. And evidently, we are not completing that. Because they aren't coming up to par, what we have to meet. Money doesn't solve the problem. You gotta have good employees. Let me say that to you. And I mean that.
Some new
If
people-
your employees don't do the job, I don't care how much money you give out, you dishing that.
And
But I'm just wondering, maybe if this is the best, then good.
Well,
But you got a majority, so
right, we
you
did
approve
vote, and it
so-
was 4-1, but Mr. James, just, if we
I don't
don't have
understand is what
some
I'm saying. You
tool,
all
we aren't
understand
making
what
any
I'm doing.
progress, and we've been trying to get a tool adopted since October.
In the evaluation, to me, the one that was given to me here was much better than this. I understand the one that was the monthly one. that we
that's the
just
Right, but
got.
that's for
That
the
to me
pay.
is evaluation that I can understand.
And
How many of you seen that? I mean, you know,
that's the
you just got it.
evaluation of the board meeting each month.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with Jan's performance evaluation on an annual basis.
All right,
How is your employee doing?
How am I gonna know, Madam Chairman, what she is doing, except the board meetings we have?
Right. And it is, she's going to start reporting to you at the meetings.
Yeah.
And if she's doing what you expect her to do, then you score her accordingly.
Yeah. How many of you have met with her this month, privately? How many?
In January?
Yeah.
None of us. That
Well,
I'm
if I
aware
got a
of.
problem with you, that's what I do. I'm in her office.
And that's what we want you to do.
That's exactly right, and that's what I got to do with
I've
this.
hardly been in Pitt County.
But anyway, if it'll make you happy, I'll vote with you.
No.
Because we're gonna get monthly reports from her, which will answer all of these areas.
In
It'll
other
answer
words,
some of them.
Jane,
It's
you're
not
gonna
gonna
have to
answer
answer
all.
all those questions
Yes.
to us each month?
Yes.
You
You
won't get
got-
all those every
She's
month.
gonna
No,
answer
you
the,
gotta, I don't want to put more burden on you that you have already gotten. That's what I'm getting at.
she's going
Red
to,
tape is what will destroy you. Education is a good
But I
example.
think we need to remember that this is how all these different points, there's like 23, no, more, how many
What
points?
about 23 of them?
I think more than that, but it's over the year.
And how
they
is
all
her
come
relation-
together.
it's-
How does number one puzzle piece fit and to what degree? In with number 22, to what degree? And then that comes, what did she do in
23 of 'em.
February that, that fulfills this need? And then she's kind of come over here and fill in with number 15 and explain what she did to achieve that rating.
because you're looking
And
at
so
the
if
big
that-
areas.
This is an annual
Well,
overview.
I know, but it's a,
But it's
for her
going to
to do
occur
all of
on a
this.
monthly,
We'll deal with it.
okay.
update.
We'll deal with it. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
Inside your agenda, information for the board, status of agency personnel, the telephone report, the technology report, integrity reports, anything in there, Jan, that you wanted to point out, or anything that anybody had questions of before we get to the other items that Jan had set at your place?
Okay. We've got, on the vacancy report, we've got a couple of retirements planned over the next few months, so you're gonna see a few more vacancies. That, I just wanted to make that comment. In fact, Cora Killebrew, for those of you who know Cora, is retiring, and she's got a reception this month. On the switchboard, we're doing some major changes to resolve, we hope we're gonna resolve some issues, and we'll see, we'll give you a report. On the technology report, even though we have not done as much with the kiosk process as we would have liked, we have used it a lot with the training for the staff as it relates to NC Fast, so that has been a wonderful thing to have available. In February, we will be bringing a fraud plan to the board for their approval on how we're going to be handling fraud cases in the future. So be looking for that in the agenda package for next month. I put at everybody's place a child support shout out. This is a note that Pitt County, Shanithia White, was recognized for being the 11th highest collector in the state, based on a lump sum paid by non-custodial parents. So we congratulated her on that. Also, you have a letter, a Dear County Director letter sitting at your place regarding the Social Services Commission. It gives you the names of all the Social Service Commission members, their addresses, terms, tells you about the commission and what their power is. And there is a question as to whether we would like to invite our Social Services Commission member to the board meeting at some point, and talk with her about our concerns, issues, things that we would like to see or hear something from her. And our person is Virginia Cooper. So I laid that at your place in case you are interested in doing that. So those are the only two things. Answer any questions anybody has.
Any interest from the board to have Jenny come talk to us in her role with the Social Services Commission?
Did you say we had, it had overtime? How much overtime did you have? Didn't you say we didn't have any overtime in the month of?
We did not do any, we did
Overtime
not
is-
have any required overtime for income maintenance in the months of November or December.
December.
Right, right.
If Jenny would like to come, she has sat in on a couple of meetings, and if she, because she is such an ongoing integral part of this, I certainly would feel that we would love to, we would welcome her to a board meeting,
Just to visit or to speak about her role?
the way she wants to do it. And if she wanted to speak, just to give prior notice so that she could be put on the agenda.
So
So you
we'll
want me to contact her?
contact her and just see if she's interested in coming before the board. Any other items, Jan, that you need?
No.
Any other items from members of the board? Then guess what we need, Mr. James?
Do what now?
What is it we need at 5:30?
Need to adjourn?
We need to adjourn.
I'm waiting
I
for
vote
your
we adjourn,
motion.
Madam Chairman.
What about
Wait a
the
minute, how about this
monthly
other?
evaluation?
If you want to complete it, you
Leave it.
complete it and
Okay.
leave it in your
Okay.
spot. But
All right.
otherwise,
Just
based
as
on
a-
Mr. James,
Just,
No,
just as a
Susan
reminder.
takes them
No,
and then
I,
she puts them
I
together and
better
gives them back
understand
to
it
you
now
as
from
a,
what you're
whatever
saying.
anybody sends
She's
them
gonna
to
give
write.
us information so that we'll be able to
To
take it, to check each one of those.
and to decide
But
if she
I am
met.
concerned about, I want to make sure she's got time to do her job. I don't want to be putting down. It takes a lot of time, and this is not that important as to get that Medicaid and food
Is it
stamps.
really kind of just a matter of keeping a log?
It is basically.
Just
That's what I'm
basically a
doing, is
daily
doing a
log of
log
what you
and
did.
giving you sort of a summation of the different things that sort of fit. It's not in number one, I did
Just
this,
put
or
me
number
down,
two,
I'll
I
vote
did.
for it. Go ahead.
So, Mr.
let
James
me-
motioned to adjourn. I think Mary seconded it. So we are adjourned.
Oh, good
We can
deal.
go home.
It is got colder.